Hello, everybody. Welcome back to INCD Case Plan Real Talk, episode 5.
5, yep.
Okay, it's taking the wheel, assessment strategy, and the business of reunification. Again, we're not attorneys, psychologists, clinicians, or anything like
We
that.
don't have any fancy letters behind our name. We're just parents trying to help other parents
get their kids back and do it effectively. So,
all right, so today we are going to dive into service engagement and assessment strategy because honestly, too many parents walk into the system completely blindfolded. We did this too. You treat your case plan like a punishment or a checklist of chores, and we need to shift that mindset right now. Your case plan is not a punishment. It is a high stakes business contract.
Yep, that's exactly right. So if you look at your family as a corporation right now, your company is in a massive crisis. Okay. So the state has stepped in as an auditor.
Nobody likes auditors.
If a CEO has an auditor walk through the building, they don't sit in a corner and cry about it, honestly. They get their head on straight. They don't look unkempt. They put their suit on, walk through the door, and take control of the boardroom.
Yep. You are the CEO, and if you want to take back control of your life, let's face it, if the department is involved, things got out of control somewhere, and you have to act like an executive in crisis management. That is how you are going to get through this. That mindset shift is going to change how you engage with everything in your case. And, it may change how you handle things, moving further in your life, because it has for us. We absolutely handle everything in our life differently after we started thinking like this. So anyways, back to my big script here. So when you show up for these assessments, you need to be groomed, professionally dressed with a sharp business head on your shoulders, and you need to look like a parent who is capable, stable, and ready to handle shit.
That's a fact. Honestly, it changes the entire strategy of it. When a caseworker or assessor sees you walk in, or a parent walk in looking like they mean business.
Yeah, if you walk in confident, it changes how people treat you.
The dynamic will shift 100%, from evaluating a helpless client to dealing with a focused executive who's walking in and ready to take care of their shit. And that's just the reality of things. So let's talk about getting into the assessments and getting them booked. The department is going to hand you a paper with recommended providers, and
you're
parents
gonna get one of these every month.
Yep. It's parents see this and think, I have to go to a specific clinic and I have to wait for their 3-month waiting list. We were we were absolutely not going to wait for 3 months to do this shit. You know what I mean?
We had the mental health provider that they had on that list wouldn't even call me back because of my insurance. Actually, no, we got a call back that said we can't give you services. And
mine was 6 months out.
Yeah, his was 6 months out, and we were not waiting. So those services, voluntary services, are required. Those providers, those are recommended providers. You have the legal right to see any provider who is accredited and who will bill with your insurance. So call multiple providers.
Yes, you have the legal right to go to anybody.
Make multiple appointments. Get put on their short list or their do not call list.
Yes. So when it comes down to scheduling, don't play the numbers game. Okay. Yeah. Don't just call one place and sit on your ass and get booked and say, okay, I have 6 weeks out and my appointment's scheduled. Do like she said, put your name on every missed. Say, get your name scheduled at 6 different facilities or centers, and say, hey, will you get my name on your missed appointment call list? Because people always fall off and they're not trying to make their appointment. So there's going to be somebody, and you're going to be able to say, if it's a number, like I said, it's a numbers game. If you have 6 different places you're scheduled at,
play the numbers in your favor.
And somebody's going to cancel, and you're going to get a call instead of being 3 months, 6 months, 4 months out, whatever it is, you can be in a couple weeks, if not sooner, because of somebody else canceling. Mm-hmm. And if not, I promise you'll still get in before your set appointment date, however long it is out. So, voluntary. Voluntary is the biggest lie.
Voluntary is the biggest lie in the system. Like, those services, they are not voluntary. They are voluntold.
Yes.
If they're telling you that you need to get a substance abuse assessment, a parent capacity assessment, a mental health assessment, and they're recommending them, do them now. If you don't, they are going to put a couple of things in your file that are going to, these are poison to your case. Okay.
The parent is not engaging.
Yeah.
They're
Lacks insight or
non-receptive.
non-receptive to services. Yep. And you don't want that in your case.
Those two phrases, lacks insight and not receptive, is poison.
Yeah. And it will absolutely keep your case open longer. They kept telling us that we were non-receptive to services, and we were absolutely not
status quo.
Non-receptive to services. We had an insurance barrier because I'm on Medicare, and we didn't understand these things initially going into our case. And the other issue that we had was I don't drive. Okay. I have seizures. I've been having seizures for 3 years. So they were trying to schedule us all over the place. And, for starters, we only have one car. 2, I don't drive anymore. So those are things that you're going to have to find a way to work around. The way we did it was we forced them to allow us to engage in services together. We just told them, you're just going to have to deal with it. We had people telling us, you can't, and our thing was, well, watch me, and we did. We did get our stuff done. We got our mental health evaluations done the same day. We got our substance abuse evaluations done the same day.
Yep.
And, we pushed through a lot of that stuff together. Honestly, us being together drove a lot of people crazy, because even our lawyers, it made them nuts, because, that whole lawyer confidentiality thing, when there's 3 of us in the room, that's out the window. But,
so don't let these assessments become ammunition for you.
Don't do that.
That's what we're trying to tell you is don't let your engagement be weaponized against you. Yeah. Okay. Engage, get it done, do it swiftly, execute these things as a math problem.
Yeah. And just remember, you have to get these things done. Like I said it once before, trying, they don't care if you're trying. If you're not doing, you're not in compliance. And
yes. So the huge roadblock is basically the department hands you a piece of paper saying mental health abuse, substance abuse assessment, and they don't tell you how to pay for it. Okay, this is another thing. It says that the department is supposed, if you don't have Medicaid, or the department can't legally ask you to do anything that you cannot afford, so they're supposed to pay for it. But what they'll do is say, okay, well, go to our network, go to our in-network providers. And there's multiple times that we went to in-network providers, but they still wouldn't pay for the assessment.
I actually have a bill somewhere that I'm going to have to get addressed at some point. And something that they should have told us right out the gate is, so if you don't qualify for Medicaid, you can apply for behavioral health services only.
BHSO.
Yeah, BHSO. This is really important.
Call your provider instantly. Yeah. Get on the phone and ask them specifically, do I have BHSO coverage on my policy?
Yeah.
Do it right out the gate. So that'll eliminate a lot of bullshit.
Every bit of this bills back to Medicaid in some way. Every bit of it does. So what is the next thing here? Okay, so the personality inventory. This is fun. So your parenting capacity assessment, the first thing that you're going to get is this huge bubble test.
It's 12 pages long.
It's 12 pages long. Those horrible ones that we had to do in school.
It's archaic.
It looks just like that.
It's called
super archaic.
It's called the MMPI, and I want to say the Minnesota Multifaceted Personality Inventory.
Yes. And it's ridiculous.
So we were talking to our assessor, and what was funny is there was one question on there that says, do you like archery and stamp collecting? And I was looking at my son like wait a minute, we have archery stuff and stamps. So and she's like, no, don't answer that.
Like, don't say yes to that. It'll trigger a schizophrenia diagnosis. That is how ridiculous this test is. Okay, they're using a bubble test as a diagnosing tool
that was used in World War II to test for shell shock and PTSD and soldiers that were getting ready to go to war or come back from war. So
this test is a weapon. It was literally built back in World War II to test soldiers to see who would get PTSD.
Hundreds of true and false questions.
The department uses this to catch parents off guard. It has hundreds of true or false questions. You must answer these honestly, but you have to understand the trap inside.
And here's the reality: a lot of good parents, this really is an ambush, because parents that are out there doing the most or whatever, and then you come into this and you're trying to get clean and get your head on straight, and then all of a sudden they hit you with this personality inventory. We were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. And of course we looked it up, because we don't do anything until we research it, and we both
neither should you.
Yeah, neither should you. If somebody hands you a piece of paper that you don't understand,
research
it before you write down anything, before you answer anything. Always research anything before you do anything.
And don't ever sign a document unless you understand what you are signing.
You know, I can remember people used to joke when we were a kid, and knowledge is power. Like, but it absolutely is. It absolutely is. Educate yourself. You have to remember that the people that are doing the other people that you're dealing with in these cases, they have college degrees. And as parents, a lot of us didn't get to do that because our babies were consuming all of our time. So absolutely educate yourself about everything. The internet is amazing. Our AIs are amazing. Ask questions.
Yep.
Know what you're doing before you do it, always. So.
And here's the thing: is the thing about this personality test is it can be used improperly, because it's extremely archaic. But here's the thing: if you truly do have medical issues and you answer honestly on there, and you're not aware of how this testing is graded, you can put yourself in a situation where
they say you're mentally unstable because you have chronic arthritis,
and you're a hypochondriac because you state that you have multiple pain in different categories,
or you're fixated on physical conditions, and
or you're imagining health problems.
You know, if you know, anybody that knows me, you know, I have a horrible back deformity. I have really bad arthritis in my feet, and
ankylosing spondylitis.
And I hobble when I walk, and they come back and tell me that I'm hyperfixated on
your
non-existent medical problems.
So, and here's the thing: a doctor is not reviewing your medical charts over this. So this is a psychiatric professional that is doing it.
It's not an MD.
And they may say that the parent is hyper focused on non-existent medical conditions, but the fact is they twist your real physical pain into something that is not, because
a psychiatric condition. I'm not mentally unstable because I have arthritis. You know what I mean? And the thing is, and the other thing is too, is just because somebody has a mental health condition doesn't make them a bad parent. You know, and that's not a fair thing to make parents feel like, because they have mental illness. If you have depression or anxiety, or I mean, even if you're schizophrenic, as long as you're maintaining and you're taking your medication and you're managing your life, there's no reason why you shouldn't have your children. There's nothing out there that says that parents have to be perfect. Parents have to be, you have to love your children and take care of your children and provide for your children. So
keep them safe.
So just because if you have a mental health diagnosis, don't feel like that's going to stop you from getting your kids back, because if you don't let it won't. You know, so there's at no point in this are we trying to encourage anybody to minimize
or be
their trauma or dishonest. What this is about is engaging appropriately with these specific things. So your assessments are not a place to trauma dump. Okay.
No.
Wait till your next appointment to trauma dump if you want to. Do not do it during your assessment. The crappy thing about this is a lot of us have to go through a lot of trauma and a lot of heartache before we get to a point where the department is involved. You know, like with us, our life was a mess. We were both super traumatized. We were depressed. We were strung out. I mean, the amount of stuff that we went through was crazy, you know. And then when these people started asking us questions, we started realizing that, like, nobody cares about what's behind you. You know, they might ask you, you know, why did you get here? They don't want to hear the whole story of how you got there. They want to hear something that's insightful. They want you to say, my life spiraled out of control. I have a substance abuse problem. I'm trying to address those things right now. I have housing instability, but I'm trying to address those things right now. So that's what you need to be thinking about when you go into these assessments. You need to be thinking forward with your thoughts always, and solution focused. Do not focus on the past. You can't do anything about the past. What you can do about is now and the steps that you take after this. So what they're looking for in these assessments Yes, they're screening you for trauma. Yes, they're screening you for mental illness. But the big thing that they want to see is, are you mentally capable of being a parent? Are you mentally capable of identifying risk and safety hazards to your children? Protective capacity. So when they start asking you, why are you here? How did you get here? Don't trauma dump. Okay. Just, my life got out of control and I'm trying to address those things right now so that I can get my family home.
Be honest, be direct, and be forward focused, solution focused.
Those initial assessments, you need to show insight. You need to show that you are working on things, because if they think that you're in denial, or that you are minimizing, or that you are being dishonest, they're gonna know.
And here's the thing. So now that we were talking about mental health and being honest in these assessments, that brings up a really big misconception of all. Okay.
Yeah.
So the privacy. Okay. You think
private.
that parents walk into a therapist or a doctor's office, evaluator's office, thinking, oh, HIPAA or CFR Part 42, because of, if anybody knows what that is, CFR Part 42 is like,
it's the substance abuse HIPAA.
Yeah, it makes HIPAA look like nothing compared to CFR Part 42. Okay, so they think by going into a doctor's office that it's confidential.
It's not confidential.
No.
As soon as you sign an ROI and you go into those assessments, that is part of an official court record.
And the ROI is release of information, and
that means all of it.
Yes. So when you got to go in there and you're not checking limited release of information, you're releasing every category.
And I had a provider that actually was completely dishonest with me about this.
Hold on, and here's I'm just gonna pause on that piece. Not every professional that you work with knows the laws that they are protected by and that they are supposed to follow, per se.
That's very true.
They don't always apply them, especially if they're new into their field. Give grace, but at the same time, know
yourself.
What you're supposed to do.
Know protect yourself.
How to protect yourself, because there are instances like what happened to my wife, and there's also things to follow up after this, but I'll let her explain what happened. And it's very frustrating that this comes from a professional.
Yeah, I had something really scary happen to me when we got out of jail, and it got brought up during my substance abuse evaluation. And I already kind of, we had already been doing this for a while, so we were starting to kind of understand the rules of the game. And my substance abuse provider said, have you talked to anybody about that? And I said, no. And she asked me why. And I said, because I don't want this to end up on my social worker's desk. It's none of her business. And she said, that's not how this works. Fast forward 2 weeks later, when I'm going through my case with my husband and we're preparing for court, guess what? Every single thing I told her was right in my case.
Black and white.
So everything that you tell those people during your assessments, all of it becomes part of court documents. It is nobody's business if you don't want it to be. So be aware of that going into this.
If you don't want to share things that have happened to you with everybody in the world,
then
that's your right.
This is not the place to do that. You have the right to your privacy. You have the right to have your dignity intact when you're going through this. Having that you were sexually assaulted,
and here's
put in court documents and spread out in front of a bunch of strangers, like, that's violating. That's hurtful.
And here's another very important thing. Why we're on that note, this is off script, but with this, what we learned is that if there's hundreds of ways to do UAs, hair follicle testing, there's fingernail clippings, there is mouth swabs, there's UAs, okay? So when you're going through this, if you've ever been sexually assaulted by a man, by a woman, it doesn't matter, okay? You can ask, at least in the state of Washington, I don't know for the other 49 states, I know for a fact in the state of Washington, you can ask for trauma-informed care.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no need for you.
You have to take your pants off. This is actually, I completely forgot about this until we brought this up. So because of what I went through, I flat out refused to do an observed UA. I would not do it. They tried to say, well, it's okay because it's going to be a woman observing. And I just said, how do you know it wasn't a woman that sexually assaulted me? why does it matter who assaulted me? The point is I'm not taking my clothes off in front of a stranger. It's not going to happen. Fast forward a couple months later, I found out they could have done that exact same test with a mouth swab, because the provider that we see now uses mouth swabs. There's no reason to have to be humiliated in front of another person if you're not okay with that, you know, and I wasn't okay with that. And I pushed through, and I did it one time, but I didn't do it any more than that. We pushed until they got hair follicle tests on us, but I flat out refused to take my pants off in front of a stranger. And you have the right to not do that. It's your body.
Yes. All you have to do is let them know that you want trauma-informed care.
And they have to make accommodations by law.
Yep.
So I can.
If you can look it up, or if you're interested, you can message us, and I will email you the RCW and information pertaining to that.
And we'll even put together a document for you so that you can take it in and hand it to somebody else if it's something that you're not super comfortable talking about, or that you're having a hard time articulating to somebody else. You can absolutely call us, and we'll put together the paperwork for you so that you can.
Matter of fact, we should make a template.
Yeah, we absolutely should make a template for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just added something new to my book.
Yep. So, and then about the trauma dumping. Okay. So, with that, you don't want in these assessments, you don't want, like she said, you don't want to trauma dump and get into, and I'm not 100, like, we're not saying to not address
your trauma.
100% address your mental health.
Yeah.
Okay. Take care of yourself. Mental health is so important.
Take care of your mental health. Take care of your physical health. Take care, just take care of all the things that you need to be a healthy person. But
yes, mental health was so it was frowned upon in the fire service.
It still is.
There's a stigmatism that comes with it. When I was in the fire service, if we ever had any kind of, when I was in the fire service, if we had any kind of serious call that we went on, we had what they call a debrief after the incident, and that was to gauge the trauma and to help, because suicide in public service field is out of control. It's really high.
We actually spoke with a mental health provider about this at great length the other day, and a big part of the people that she deals with actually with L&I claims is first responders that have really severe PTSD, because those things weren't addressed when they were younger and when they were in the field and they were dealing with, horrible accidents and murders and all kinds of crazy stuff. So people
too macho.
Yeah, too macho. So they bottle it up. And your brain can only handle so much. So if you have PTSD or you have trauma, we're not at all saying don't address it, just not in that initial assessment. That assessment is there to gauge whether you are aware of what's going on around you and that you're ready to address what's going on and take control of your life.
Yes, if you need that, I please do it on a different venue.
Yeah, just wait till your second appointment, because that first assessment, that initial assessment, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for parenting capacity, they're looking for protective capacity, and they're looking for insight. So that's what's being addressed there, and that's what they don't tell parents. And so they go in there thinking that's the venue to trauma dump, and it's just not. It's not the right appointment.
And don't spend your whole appointment. And here's the paradox to that. Okay, don't spend the whole appointment crying and bitching about how the department is baby pimps and they're all this horrible shit and how unfair it is, because honestly they're just going to slap a label on you. You're in a pre-contemplation phase and
you're not ready for change, and guess what, your case is going to get open longer and they're going to crack you with more stuff that you probably don't need anything else to do right now, because the first 3 months of this is really busy and really overwhelming. And
the main things that they're looking for is, are you mentally capable right now of identifying safety risk for your children? And are you stable, consistent, and solution focused? And can you get your kids back home and manage them appropriately?
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
And so, like we said, if you have trauma to work through, and I please deal with it, whatever you do, deal with your trauma.
Just not at your assessment.
Yeah. Do it outside the initial one. And ask for ask for an outside counselor. You can go to a different agency. If you're on state Medicare, you can go to a different agency and keep your department counselor and then go to another place to do your real counseling, because you want to make sure that you're right no matter
after
what.
you have your assessment done, this is the thing a lot of people don't know, you can also revoke your ROI.
Facts.
Once they,
we
revoked all of our ROIs. Once they have that assessment and the recommendations, you can go back and you can say, I want to change my ROI to just show engagement.
Limited.
So that, all they're showing is that you are showing up and you're going to your appointments, and then your chart notes,
UAs,
and then your chart notes aren't part of that anymore. And you have the right to do that. Your privacy is you have the right to protect your privacy. So after that initial assessment, you absolutely have the right to go back and say, I want to revoke my ROI, and you have the right to make another one and cross off the chart notes, because if you don't want that to be everybody's business, that's nobody's business.
Yep, that's very true. Okay, and now getting down to level of care.
Yep.
Okay, ASAM and the escalation chain.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is a really big deal. Treatment providers have a tendency to overdiagnose. If
in this reality, this will give you a glimpse into that section of what happens after assessments.
Yeah.
And the recommendations come back, and because sometimes, like she said, the system overdiagnoses, okay?
Yeah.
And they may put you in this little box. Don't let them do that, okay?
Yeah. If you feel like where they're putting you is appropriate,
or
as
it's
long
too
as you
intense.
if it's like it's too intense. Like for us, by the time that we figured all this stuff out, we had already been clean for months. We were in stable housing. We had steady income. I'm not in an abusive relationship, obviously. So I didn't fit the ASAM criteria.
And the ASAM is American Society of Addiction Medicine.
So,
and they're distinct levels of care, okay?
Yeah, they're very distinct levels of care. So for IOP, they've got all these things that you have to fit into. Well, I didn't fit into any of those at that point. And at that point, going to, treatment 3 days a week and then having to go to meetings 3 days a week, to me at that point, that was destabilizing, because we were past that point.
Yeah, and substance abuse isn't arbitrary, okay? It's governed by a nationwide standard. And so that standard goes from level 1 outpatient all the way to, I think, level 3
is intensive inpatient.
Yeah, and so, and if assessor tries to recommend a level of care that doesn't match how many days you've been clean or your actual situation, like she was saying, there's certain things that have to meet that criteria. So where we had hair follicle testing and all of our, socioeconomical factors were in place, that putting us in intensive outpatient, or
you would have prevented him from working at that point, and that was
counterproductive rather than productive.
That was where he got really frustrated, and he actually got pissed off, and he told our attorneys, he said, you guys are gonna have to figure out another way to get this through, because I have to be able to support my family. And
if the department's not going to help pay or help us, we have to do something different.
They wouldn't continue paying our rent, and he was like, you guys have us doing 35 hours of services a week. Like, when am I supposed to get a job?
Yeah, so when you're engaged in 35 hours a week, and
told him no.
Well, can you imagine if we were in 2 separate Oxford houses?
No.
Okay.
That's the whole
together we were engaged in all these services. Plus, our son was with and he was exhausted from being transferred back and forth.
I can't even imagine having a child have to do this with their parents living in separate homes. I mean, that's the whole reason why we opened our home the way we did. I don't know how much we've talked about this at all, but we actually opened a family recovery home because of
to address
what we
the
went
very
through,
thing that we didn't have.
Because there's nowhere for married couples to live while they're going through this, and that's not fair. Marriage is protected by law. And I can remember telling people, they were like, you guys can't live together, you can't do this together. I was like, he's not my boyfriend and he's not my pimp. We've been married for 10 years. You can't tell me that I can't live with my husband. If there is not a clinical or legal or safety reason, like, there's no reason to put parents through that. There's no reason to put families through that. You should absolutely be able to do, your treatment together and your healing together, because that's part of being married is, you go through those things together, you come out of them together. And people had a really hard time dealing with that with us, and that's something that we're going to talk a lot more about later in the shows, because everybody has their own opinion about, treatment is supposed to be first person centered. Like, we don't agree with that at all. When you're married, like, nothing is just about you. You're like,
especially with kids,
especially when you have kids. And so we're going to talk more about a thing that we call child-centered recovery, which is where we hyperfixated on our son, and we have another son that we're still trying to get home, and we're working really hard on that. But that's what drove our recovery.
And another thing about mental health is there's such a stigmatism about codependence, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what happens when you find a couple that is a power couple like we are, and they're interdependent?
I get so aggravated when people call us codependent.
And there's so many people we ran into, they're like, interdependent, what's that? Like,
like, you're the psychologist, go look it up.
So, on the assessor and the recommended level of care, to back that up, if it doesn't match what fits your situation appropriately,
and I mean really fits your situation, not just because you don't want to do it,
but it has to be it has to be backed up
you
by
have to be able to back it up. You can't
undeniable
just say, like,
concrete data. Okay, so you have to have your facts in line. Okay, and there's something called a medical necessity review. Okay, that is your golden ticket to getting the
appropriate level of care.
Absolutely.
And if your insurance companies, they're auditors, if they come in and they say, okay, so to be an IOP, you have to be, I believe it's within the first 60 days of sobriety, had to have a recent relapse, have unstable housing, unstable financial situations, or be in an unhealthy relationship and have any of those problems. So why am I an IOP? My insurance wouldn't pay for it anymore. So they had to put me in OP because of that.
Yep. And then if they say, well, we also had the issue where they said, well, you need to go, this is, you have to do our program. So you need to do the ASM book work. Okay. So we sat down over the weekend, and both of us did 25 lessons out of the ASAM, which was lessons from 1.0 all the way to
lesson 25, and there was 2 lessons that were variations. So I had lesson A and lesson B, and then we did a thing about the ASAM criteria, and to top it off, I did a thing in there about the five senses grounding technique, and they didn't even know how to handle that. But because we did that, and our social worker knew that we did that, when it came time for our FTDM, they didn't push that stuff on us anymore, because we had data to back up our shit.
Yeah. And there was a time where, when I was in federal prison, I got my paralegal certification through Blackstone, which is accredited law school. And then I also did my SUDP through Stratford Career Institute, which if you go and do any educational stuff and you put out money for it, please make sure it's at an accredited school. So it really sucks. So I go through an SUDP program for 24 months, get out, graduate, and it's not accredited, so it doesn't mean
credits.
Yeah.
He was so frustrated.
The community college gave me like 10 elective credits for it. So that's a side note.
He was super
make sure
that,
your education is accredited. And I told my social worker that, I would rather go back to school for my SUDP than to mess around with IOP again. Make sure it's, if you have your stuff documented, make sure it's appropriate, and it fits your needs.
There is such a thing as service burnout too, which we're going to have an episode about that as well. If they are pushing you to do too much at one time, it is absolutely okay to tell them that they need to pump the brakes.
Yeah. So our guardian ad litem sat in our kitchen one day and said, or living room, excuse me. Well, I guess the kitchen. Anyways, said that as much service that we were doing, like my family had no idea how much service that we were doing, and the communication, there's a communication breakdown, and they're like, you need to get a job, and you need to do this. It's like, okay, well, where I'm into doing all these services, like, well, you need to get a job. It's like, okay, well, I understand. I love a job, but you tell me who's going to hire me when I got 35 hours of service a week, and it's sporadic. It's not just like, 8 to 5 or 8 to 2. And then I got, it's all over the place throughout the whole week. Nobody's going to hire me. And we tried doing ride share and Uber.
It was
and
ridiculous.
Like all this, and then we had an open case. So all the background checks kept getting denied. So anyways, there even with all those roadblocks and all that bullshit, there are ways around this. Okay.
Yeah.
If we can do it,
Anybody can do it.
And that's the facts.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and remember, everybody's
got a boss.
That's a fact.
Everybody's got a boss.
Okay. On our next episode, we are going to go in, since we talked a little bit about the medical necessity review. Here's the thing is, you're going to, or you may not have one, but if you do have a stubborn social worker, or you're not getting through,
there are other ways to get attention to get your case moving forward if it's not moving fast enough for you.
Yes, but you have to do it appropriately. You have to do it
appropriately, okay? So you don't make an asshole out of yourself.
And you don't want to tank your case. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to go into that, and we'll tell you about some stuff that we did.
Constituent relations, the state senator, the state the ombudsman.
Yeah. We actually made our lawyers really mad because we contacted the Attorney General. So I wrote a letter to the Assistant Attorney General, and they're like, "You do realize it's their lawyer?" And I was like, "I don't care whose lawyer it is.
Attention is attention.
Attention is attention." Because my lawyer was like, "You can't do that. You're represented." I was like, "Well, you're not listening to me."
So listen.
So somebody's gonna listen.
So we'll teach you how to properly and effectively file complaints and escalate past stubborn caseworkers. And
that's not to say ours was always stubborn, because she wasn't always stubborn.
No,
but sometimes things didn't move fast enough for us.
Or ever for her.
Yeah,
and documentation to get your case moving swiftly. And honestly, you want to build back your reputation by being responsible. Okay. Yeah. That's you have to stop using.
Yeah.
You have to stop using, be responsible.
Get employed if you're not working. That's a big thing too. And we'll talk about that later, just like we're gonna talk about everything.
Hold them to the same standards.
Yeah, you gotta hold them to the same standards. And you have to prove that you can be. They're not just going to look at right now. They're also looking at the future. So you have to prove that you're going to be stable long term for your kids when you're going through this too. So making sure that you have housing in place, that it's secure. Like, we had to show that our rent was caught up. We had to show them that we had insurance on our car. Some of it,
they knew our monthly income and what we spent it on.
And I mean,
you may not have social workers that involved, but ours was pretty involved.
She was pretty nosy, but I don't fault her for it, because we're stable now, and a lot of that is because of her pushing as hard as she did.
And at the same time, and as irritating and as friction that may have caused in the beginning, it really gave us the edge that we needed to slice through it. And I guess the single excuse that will keep, you don't want, here's the thing, I'm thinking about these assessments and stuff that you're doing. Okay, I was talking about sitting on your ass earlier, but don't wait around and stagnate.
Yeah,
idle hands are the devil's playground, right?
Be doing something for your case every day.
Every single day.
Find something productive to do this. Every day you need. And we did this every day. We woke up and it was, what are we doing today to get Gus back? What are we doing today to get Gus back?
It didn't
matter if it was writing letters. It didn't matter if it was research. We were doing something that was going to positively affect our case, because we wanted our son back.
And here's the thing: if your social worker says, You got to understand that your social worker, I can promise you, is overloaded.
They're so tired.
They got so many people that they're probably working anywhere from, I think it's 25 to 30 families, not just you.
Yeah, and that was something that I had to learn to be more sensitive about. After I started doing more research about the other side of it, because they say that ideally a social worker would only have 10 cases on their caseload, but that's not the reality. The reality is closer to 40. And that's not families with just one children. A lot of those families have multiple children. So your social worker may be responsible for up to 100 kids. So keep that in mind too. When you're going through and you're doing these things, if you're making their life easier, they're going to make life easier for you as well. Our social worker, some of the stuff that we did, she didn't have to check on us because I was checking in with her every week. You know.
Yep. As soon as you get those assessments done,
email
don't wait.
Don't wait. Don't make her have to call and find out if your assessment got done. You know, I sent our social worker. She got an email from me every Friday.
Even though those ROIs were in place, they didn't need them because as soon as we got our shit done, we were like, bam, copies, done, fax it to them. So that way they had, if they wanted to verify that we didn't alter the paper, go ahead, but there's the paper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they take control.
We absolutely you know what I'm saying? Control. Like, it's your family, it's your company. And that's the biggest thing that we're trying to teach you. I mean,
track your own paperwork.
Yeah. Okay. A CEO is not going to sit around and wait. A CEO is going to jump in and take action and do the things that they need to do in that boardroom to get their kids back. So that's what you need to do.
And I think a lot of what changed the whole landscape for us is I read this book a few years back when I was in the fire service. It was a gift to me, and it's called Extreme Ownership, and it's about Navy SEALs. And these Navy SEALs, they were in with their commander, and this mission had went horribly wrong. And their corporal, the commander, and then their staff sergeant were all in there. And as they were going over what happened in this incident where they lost one of their comrades, not a single one of them gentlemen made an excuse for what had happened. Each one of them took ownership for their part in what happened, because everybody can stand and point fingers, right? Yep,
that's what they're looking for in your assessment right there, is ownership.
So own your part. Even if you can't see it, think about, okay, well, really, what could I have done different to change the outcome of today's meeting? Or, you know, what could I have done different that have made this go a little bit better if I would have behaved differently, if I would have kept cool, if I would have been respectful to my social worker. 100 things. If you take a little bit of ownership for the situation and how you handle things and how you engage with people, and you continually do that day after day, it's like what they say, if you do something over and over for 40 days, you develop a new habit.
Yeah, and it absolutely becomes a habit. If you start behaving like this in your case, like, it will absolutely affect the way the rest of your life. I mean, honestly, once we started handling things like this, I mean, it really just made us both more confident all the way around, the way that we handle, the way that we deal with other families. I mean,
we run our business.
Yeah, we run our business like this, and I mean, our business is getting families back together. So we're very serious about this. You know, this isn't just some guru shit. I mean, we're both very passionate about this. Like, you know, sitting in those court hearings and hearing no progress, nothing to report. Like, that's absolutely heartbreaking. You know, and then
what's even worse is when you don't see a parent at all show up. One parent's incarcerated, has no idea that this stuff is happening. The other parent is completely disengaged and thinks that they're better off without their kid.
Your kids are better off without you.
And then these people, you know, you got to understand, these social workers and attorney generals, they see this day in and day out. Again. So when you're coming into this situation and you're expecting them to know your story or to read through your paperwork, they're looking at whatever the worst version of you was to get in front of them. They may read a snippet of that.
Yeah, that's the narrative that they have on you right now. And the only person who can correct that narrative is you.
Yep. By showing up,
being consistent.
And I'm going to tell you this, not one other parent that we've seen was dressed for the occasion. Yeah, you may not think something so minute would be a big difference.
Yeah, but if you walk into one of these meetings, you know, and you look exhausted and you're wearing, you know, ripped jeans and sneakers,
or a halter top and court,
and then the next week you walk in and you're wearing a business suit, people look at you differently. They treat you differently. It absolutely matters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, and everything about this is, you have to start addressing this like your business, because your family is your business. Your family is your company. Your company is in crisis right now. And if you start behaving like a CEO and you start addressing these things and taking action on these things, taking ownership of these things, this is going to go a lot smoother for you, and it's going to improve your life all the way around, you know. And
here's the thing, your dependency is not going to be done in 40 days, right? So if you create these healthy habits, and you continually use these things over and over, this isn't just something that we applied to just this situation of our lives. These things that we're teaching you, we apply to our life every single day, in every aspect, in our business, in our personal dealings, and in our religious community as well. I mean, we choose the right next decision every time.
It always makes
as
the next
best
right
at
choice.
least as right as we know for the situation, as best as we can. In any given situation, we try to choose the right decision that's going to be beneficial to, you know, whoever we're working with, or our child, or our housing program. And the things for our business is, we try to make sure that we apply these same things by documenting, keeping track, being respectful, dressing professional, taking notes. And I mean, we apply it to every aspect in our life, and it's,
Yeah, we
I
absolutely
can't tell
do,
you
and
how far
it's changed everything.
like it's changed the whole aspect of our life has changed exponentially for the better. And we have people that have stepped up and engaged and made a huge difference in our life. And it wasn't because we were throwing a fit and bitching about, you know, all the, you know, throwing a tantrum about all this bullshit that was happening to us, and services that, I'm going to be frank, that we didn't feel like we needed to engage with, because they were just elementary, and it was really redundant. But it was a good experience, because we were able to learn a little bit, and it was kind of it was a good feeling, like going through with Triple P.
Yeah,
because it was an honor to work with some of them, honestly.
it really was. And some of them were starting to push to a gray area where these people are becoming our colleagues because of our housing program. But I think that the experience overall was not negative. The things that we learned to implement, we really think that this is going to change the landscape of dependency cases. And you know, when you get caught up in this, like, the statistics aren't good. You know, it's like it's a coin toss.
She said somebody's name. So anyways, INCD case plan out. Like and subscribe. Thank you.